Okay, settle in, because we are about to plunge into a place that doesn't technically exist on any map. We're talking about Eureka, that hidden gem nestled somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, home to the brightest minds on Earth.
Yeah.
And also the biggest, most spectacularly improbable disasters you could possibly imagine.
It really is the ultimate paradox, isn't it? A town explicitly designed for scientific advancement, where groundbreaking research is just the daily routine.
Right.
Yet that very pursuit of knowledge constantly teeters on the brink of chaos. Self-aware tech turning hostile, reality-altering accidents, unexpected temporal loops just popping up.
It's all just part of the Neighborhood Watch report, apparently.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's where genius meets mayhem before your first cup of coffee is even brewed. And for this deep dive, our mission is, well, it's ambitious. We are going to unpack the entire officially recognized history and lore of this extraordinary town.
And we're drawing directly from the deepest sources, not just the main TV series, which is obviously key, but all the extras, too.
Like the webisodes, the comic books, the tie-in novels. Basically every piece of officially sanctioned canon we could find.
Exactly. And the richness of the source material here is really what allows for this level of detail. We're building this timeline not just from the, 77 episodes across the 5 seasons?
Yeah, something like that.
But integrating the supplementary narratives, too. That includes those 8 webisodes, like the Hide and Seek series, which adds some interesting layers to early character stuff and tech.
And the comics are explicitly part of the story, too, right? They fit in.
Absolutely. The comics from Boom Studio, specifically Eureka Vol 1 and Dormant Gene, they're designated as being in continuity. They slot into specific points in the show's run.
Okay.
And the novels Substitution Method, Brainbox Blues, and Road Less Traveled, published by Ace Books, they're also canonical tie-ins, designed to fit pretty seamlessly within the established timeline and, expand on certain events or introduce new concepts.
Plus, we've got the official crossovers with Warehouse 13.
Right, which don't just offer fun interactions, but also firmly establish that Eureka exists within a much larger, equally strange universe.
So you have this incredible multi-layered narrative, and our goal is to present it chronologically. We're going to lay out a comprehensive timeline for you. Think of this as your definitive guide, your shortcut to understanding the complete picture of Eureka's intricate past, its key players, and how this unique world evolved from a secret vision to a chaotic present. What did you find most compelling about pulling all these different threads together?
The most compelling part is seeing how these different sources really enrich the main narrative. The novels and comics, they often fill in backstories or explore characters' internal lives, maybe introduce technologies or organizations that weren't fully detailed on screen, but which logically flow into or influence the events of the show.
So it adds depth.
A lot of depth. For example, understanding the deeper motivations of a character or the long-term implications of some piece of tech. It's significantly enhanced by digging into these supplementary materials. It moves beyond just summarizing the show's plot to revealing the interconnectedness of this fictional world. It highlights the long-running plans and the often hidden foundational elements that underpin everything we see. It really allows for a truly comprehensive deep dive.
All right, let's unpack this by starting at the very beginning, because Eureka wasn't some random town that just, got weird. It was conceived and built with a specific, pretty monumental purpose. We're talking the immediate aftermath of World War II.
Precisely. The origins are firmly rooted in the strategic imperatives and, frankly, the anxieties of the burgeoning Cold War era. The official narrative, as presented in the sources, traces it back to a direct authorization from President Harry S. Truman.
And that decision wasn't made in a vacuum, right? The sources emphasize the influence of figures like Albert Einstein.
Yes, particularly his concerns about the responsibility of scientific discovery following the atomic bomb. The context of the Manhattan Project and the atomic age is absolutely critical here.
Makes sense.
Einstein and others were deeply concerned about the potential misuse of science. But the governance perspective, particularly Truman's, was also focused on leveraging American scientific superiority. The driving force behind Eureka's creation was explicitly twofold.
Okay.
First, to secure America's most valuable intellectual resources, its top scientists, engineers, innovators, consolidating them in one secure location, away from prying eyes, or recruitment by rival nations.
Right. Keep the brain safe.
And second, to provide them with unparalleled resources and secrecy to focus solely on developing next-generation technologies, primarily for national defense and interests. It was a strategic move to ensure American technological dominance in a rapidly changing global landscape.
So it wasn't just a think tank. It was an entire community built around, well, weaponized genius, in a
Yeah.
way. And it started as a concept, but then became a very real, very secret place.
That's right. The vision was formalized, and the transformation began with a pre-existing military installation, Camp Eureka. Located in the Pacific Northwest, later specified as Oregon, after some early ambiguity suggesting Washington State in the pilot, maybe.
Ah, okay. Oregon it is.
It was sanctioned in 1947 to transition into this new scientific community. And the process wasn't quick or simple. It took 3 years of incredibly meticulous planning and construction. Involved leading architects, urban planners. It really underscores the scale and the absolute necessity of secrecy.
3 years of planning just to build a town that wasn't supposed to be found. That's kind of remarkable.
It highlights the level of governmental commitment, yeah. The town of Eureka was officially founded in 1950, built from the ground up with a very specific vision. An idyllic, quintessential American small town designed to look utterly unremarkable from the outside.
Just blending in.
Exactly. The key feature, as the lore emphasizes, was that it was never to appear on any map, physical or digital. Its existence was a top-tier state secret, guarded fiercely.
And the engine of this secret town's purpose was global dynamics. GD.
Exactly. Global Dynamics, GD, it's more than just a research facility. It is the central hub, the beating heart of Eureka, developed in parallel with the town's construction. Structurally, it's presented as a corporation, but that's largely a facade.
Ah.
From its inception, it operated under the strict, direct oversight of the U.S. Department of Defense.
So Judy wasn't independent at all. It was a government contractor on steroids, basically.
Precisely. And its mandate was vast. Sources define its role as the primary engine behind virtually every significant U.S. technological breakthrough for 5 decades leading up to the start of the series.
Every single one. Wow.
Think of the space program, computing, advanced materials. Much of it, according to Eureka's lore, originated within the walls of GD. This scale of output and secrecy demanded unprecedented security.
And that's where the famous electromagnetic shield comes in, right?
Correct. The entire town and the vast GD campus were enveloped in a sophisticated, town-wide electromagnetic shield. This technology was crucial for rendering Eureka effectively invisible to the outside world, jamming sensors, redirecting satellites, making sure that idyllic small town simply wasn't there if you weren't meant to find it. This was its core protection mechanism, maintained its secrecy for half a century before Jack Carter stumbled upon it.
So you have this self-contained secret world of unparalleled scientific power.
Mm-hmm.
But almost immediately, you also have a force working against it from the shadows. The consortium.
Yes, the consortium. And what's particularly revealing in the source material is that the consortium wasn't just a reaction to Eureka's dangers. It seems to have roots stretching back to the very beginning. Their origins are mentioned as early as 1947, intertwined with the foundational planning of Camp Eureka and the town itself.
Really? That early?
Yeah. Early figures involved purportedly included Adam Barlow, later known as Beverly Barlow's father, and even, surprisingly, a young Dr. Trevor Grant.
Wait, Trevor Grant, the brilliant physicist from 1947 who helps build the Einstein-Rosen bridge. He was involved with the consortium from the start. That adds a fascinating layer of complexity.
It certainly does. The sources exploring the consortium's history indicate this early involvement, and it leads to a complex understanding of their initial motivations. There's a suggestion that perhaps their aims began with a more, well, altruistic bent, born out of the post-war anxieties about technology.
Like maybe preventing misuse.
Maybe they sought to prevent the misuse of dangerous scientific discoveries, particularly weapons like the atomic bomb, or maybe ensure that revolutionary breakthroughs benefited all of humanity, not just hoarded by one government. This potential early motivation aligns with Trevor Grant's known stance against atomic weapons development in 1947.
But that's definitely not what they evolved into, is it, based on the show?
No, the narrative clearly shows a significant shift over time. While the early intentions might have been complex, maybe even noble, the later consortium, as depicted in the main series and supplementary materials, is primarily focused on acquiring and exploiting Eureka's innovations for self-serving purposes. Corporate espionage, manipulating events, pursuing technological power for their own gain, not really universal benefit.
And Beverly Barlow becomes the face of that. inside Eureka.
Exactly. She becomes the key operative inside Eureka itself, representing this later, more antagonistic phase of the organization. A long-running, persistent external force working to undermine GD and the government's control over its research.
Okay, so we have the secret town being founded, GD being built as its engine, the consortium forming with these evolving shadowy goals, and then there's this central enigmatic object that seems to fuel some of the town's strangest phenomena, the artifact.
Ah, the artifact. Its discovery is placed relatively early in Eureka's history, though the exact date is a bit ambiguous. It's housed in the highly secure Section 5 of GD, a part of the facility reserved for the most sensitive or dangerous research.
And it's weird, right?
It's consistently described as anomalous, possessing characteristics that suggest it's non-terrestrial, maybe even non-temporal. It emits intense energy, exhibits strange, unpredictable properties that seem to defy conventional physics.
And the theories surrounding it are, well, mind-bending. A remnant from before the Big Bang. A connection to the theoretical Akashic field.
Exactly. The idea that it might be a source or receiver for a field containing universal knowledge or consciousness that elevates its significance far beyond just being an alien object. It's presented as something potentially cosmic, a source of immense power that could unlock fundamental secrets of the universe.
But also super dangerous.
But also a source of significant danger if mishandled, which, of course, being Eureka, it often is. It became a top priority for study at GD from its discovery, and naturally a point of intense interest, even obsession for the consortium, who sought to control its power. Its full nature remains largely enigmatic throughout the series, but its influence on certain characters and events is profound.
All right, so that gives us the deep background. The post-war vision, the secret founding, GD, the shadowy consortium, the mysterious artifact influencing everything. Now, everything changes for the audience and for the town itself with the utterly accidental arrival of our main character.
Enter U.S. Marshal Jack Carter. His presence in Eureka is purely the result of car trouble. He's attempting to transport his rebellious, tech-savvy teenage daughter Zoe to her mother in Los Angeles.
And Carter is the quintessential everyman, right?
Yeah.
Grounded, practical, common sense, decidedly not a genius.
Not even close. Which, as it turns out, is exactly what a town full of hypergeniuses desperately needs. His accidental arrival is perfectly timed with a scientific experiment going catastrophically wrong in the pilot episode.
A classic, world-threatening Eureka scenario right off the bat.
Textbook. Scientist Walter Perkins is working on a tachyon accelerator, and it spirals completely out of control. Starts distorting space-time, threatening to erase Eureka and potentially more from existence.
Oh boy.
The town's existing sheriff is incapacitated during the crisis, leaving a void. Carter, by sheer happenstance of being the only law enforcement officer present, is thrust into trying to contain this escalating scientific emergency.
And it's a pivotal moment where even the residents' unique traits become key. Allison Blake's son, Kevin, who at this time is depicted with autism, he plays a role.
A huge role. Kevin's specific way of processing information allows him to perceive patterns and provide the crucial insight that leads to the resolution of the space-time crisis. He sees the solution the brilliant scientists are missing. This high-stakes crisis demonstrates Carter's unique value. His ability to apply simple, practical logic and, frankly, courage in situations where complex science fails or runs wild. Impressed by his effectiveness, despite his complete lack of scientific background, the Department of Defense offers him the job of sheriff.
And he takes it.
Reluctantly, initially. But he accepts, and Zoe ends up staying with him in Eureka. That establishes the core dynamic of the series, the everyman navigating a world of hyperintelligence and its chaotic creations.
And Season 1 really sets the template for the show, doesn't it? It's basically a masterclass in experiment gone wrong of the week, introducing the kinds of threats Carter has to navigate constantly.
It establishes that core conflict dynamic perfectly. Each episode features a new piece of cutting-edge, often incredibly dangerous, technology spiraling out of control, and it's up to Carter to bring his common sense to bear on the problem. We see uncontrolled cloning resulting in a spontaneous Susan Perkins clone.
Right, the wife clone.
A memory erasure device developed by Jason Anderson used for theft. A psychological warfare satellite beam that malfunctions, causing widespread paranoia and convincing people that aliens are kidnapping townsfolk.
Oh yeah, the alien abduction panic, followed by the mysteriously intricate crop circles. Classic.
Exactly. Season 1 also starts building the lore around the artifact. Early exposure leads to Dr. Carlson gaining invincibility, which sounds great until he begins uncontrollably merging with the object itself.
Not so great.
We see dangers from Eureka's past, like Dr. Thatcher's Cold War doomsday device accidentally activated by Fargo,
Of course Fargo activated it.
which Carter has to stop by literally ramming it with his Jeep, a classic example of his practical solutions.
Common sense winning against world-ending tech. Love it.
Precisely. Other memorable Season 1 tech gone wrong includes medical nanites designed for healing that instead run amok, building physical manifestations based on the subconscious thoughts of the scientists nearby, basically. Your deepest fears or desires manifesting physically. There's psychoactive pollen that causes widespread erratic behavior and hallucinations, dubbed the Purple Haze incident, and advanced AI, specifically the town's self-aware housing unit, SARAH, and Deputy Andy, which can lead to the entire town being locked down. These episodic threats aren't just plot devices, they showcase the breadth and danger of GD's research and the unique environment Carter is now responsible for.
Now, this is where the interconnectedness of the source material really starts to show, even within the first season. The webisodes and comics fit right into this early time frame, adding detail.
They weave in pretty seamlessly, yeah. The hide-and-seek webisode series, released during Season 1, chronologically fits between episodes like Many Happy Returns and Right as Rains. It delves into genetic engineering with Taggart's cryptozoology project involving missing link creatures.
Taggart being the excitable animal behaviorist geneticist, of course.
Correct. The webisodes show Taggart experimenting a bit too prematurely, even temporarily transforming himself before gene therapy is used to correct it. It adds depth to Taggart's character and introduces genetic dangers early on.
Okay, and the comics.
The Eureka Vol. 1 comic arc is explicitly placed between episodes 11 and 12 of Season 1, carefully positioned to avoid conflicts with the timeline changes that happen later in the season. This comic story focuses on a sentient nanite biological weapon named Eric Brogan who escapes, forcing Joe Lupo to confront her past.
Ah, Joe's backstory.
Yeah, it details her prior military service, specifically her experience with this kind of tech, and also introduces former GD head Warren King, adding layers to both Joe's character and the history of GD leadership, not fully explored in the show until later.
Speaking of timeline changes, the Season 1 finale is where everything fundamentally changes for the first time. A truly pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Once in a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. A landmark episode that completely reshapes the narrative potential of the series. Nathan Stark, working with scientist Kim on experiments involving the artifact, inadvertently causes an accident. This event sends Carter 4 years into an alternate future, the year 2010.
And this future is dramatically, jarringly different from the one Carter left. Like, completely flipped.
Totally different. Henry is now the powerful head of global dynamics, and he's married to Kim, who is alive in this timeline. Carter finds himself married to Allison Blake. Zoe is successfully attending Harvard. Joe Lupo is in a relationship with Taggart. Nathan Stark is a reclusive figure, no longer running GD.
A completely divergent reality. It shows the profound impact just one event can have.
And Carter discovers the cause. In the original 2006 timeline, Kim was killed during Stark's experiment with the artifact. Henry Deacon, devastated by her death, used Walter Perkins' Tachyon accelerator, the very device from the pilot episode that initially threatened space-time to travel back in time and alter the past, saving Kim's life.
Wow. Henry did that.
Out of grief, yeah. But this act, while born of love, created a paradox that is now causing reality itself to unravel in this altered 2010.
So Henry, in his sorrow, became the very kind of scientist causing the chaotic, reality-threatening events he usually helps fix. That's such a tragic turn for his character.
It really underscores the show's theme that even the best intentions, when combined with unchecked scientific power, can have catastrophic consequences. Carter realizes he has to prevent this future by returning to 2006 and stopping Henry from making that fateful choice. He succeeds, the original timeline is restored.
But there's always a but in Eureka.
But not without a crucial, lasting consequence. Both Jack Carter and Henry Deacon retain their full memories of that alternate future.
That shared secret. Knowing how things could have been, how their lives and relationships were different in that other reality.
Yeah.
That must be an immense burden. And they also make a key discovery related to the artifact during this, right? About Beverly.
Yes. They find a neural implant in Nathan Stark's neck, directly linking Beverly Barlow and the consortium to this incident and their interest in controlling the artifact, which had apparently lost its energy during the timeline reset. This finale fundamentally alters the dynamic between key characters, especially Jack and Henry, and provides the first clear evidence of the consortium's long-game espionage within Eureka. It also firmly establishes time travel as a dangerous, consequence-laden element within the Eureka universe, something that can irrevocably change reality itself.
Moving into Season 2, we immediately see the fallout from this timeline shift and the effects of the artifact incident, particularly impacting Henry and Kevin.
Absolutely. Season 2 opens with bizarre spontaneous combustion events linked to residual energy from the artifact after the timeline reset. Henry, tormented by his retained memories of the alternate future where Kim was alive and facing the complex emotions of knowing a different reality existed, makes a difficult and ethically questionable decision.
What does he do?
He uses technology to erase Carter's memories of the alternate timeline while deliberately choosing to keep his own. His stated motive is to protect Jack from the pain of those memories, but it creates a significant secret and distance between them.
Oof, that's heavy. And Allison Blake also steps into a more prominent role here.
Yes. Following Stark's shift after the artifact incident, Allison assumes the directorship of Global Dynamics, a major change in the town's leadership structure that adds new pressures and responsibilities for her.
Okay.
Season 2 continues the pattern of episodic tech crises, but also starts weaving in longer character arcs. We see personal force fields malfunctioning, advanced weather control systems going awry, and a virtual reality therapy device that creates realistic simulations but traps patients inside.
And magnetic debris drawn by town tech, because, of course, it's just another Tuesday.
Naturally. And Kevin Blake's connection to the artifact deepens considerably in Season 2. He begins experiencing shared dreaming linked to its influence and, crucially, develops remarkable healing abilities seemingly tied to its residual energy and a connection to that theoretical Akashic field. This arc, exploring his potential, is a significant emotional storyline, particularly for Allison.
Before the season's major climax, we also get the introduction of a key character, Zane Donovan.
Yeah, Zane. He arrives as a brilliant, rebellious, internationally wanted hacker. He's recruited by GD as an alternative to federal prison after, crashing global financial markets. Minor stuff.
Just a little hacking.
His arrival brings a different kind of genius to the mix, less theoretical physics, more applied technological disruption and pattern recognition. His introduction immediately sets up his complex on-again, off-again relationship with Joe Lupo, and we see his skills tested right away in a crisis involving cognitive incapacitation tech.
So he jumps right into the chaos.
Pretty much. Other Season 2 tech includes sophisticated invisibility technology and unexpected cryogenic revival incidents, like Fargo's grandfather turning up.
Always something. And the Season 2 finale brings Beverly Barlow back into the picture in a big way, with Kevin at the center of her plans.
Yeah, the finale involves a biological threat, a transmuting bacteria that turns metal to gold and then to rust, threatening to collapse the town's infrastructure. But more importantly, it focuses on Kevin's connection to the artifact's residual energy. Henry, increasingly fearful that Kevin's amplified abilities could be exploited by Stark or the consortium, makes another ethically fraught decision.
I don't know, what now?
He frees Beverly Barlow from Stark's confinement, believing her consortium knowledge can help him sever Kevin's link to the artifact and the Akashic field. But Beverly, of course, is working for her faction of the consortium, and her true intention is to abduct Kevin to gain control over his burgeoning powers.
So Henry, in trying to protect Kevin with science, again, inadvertently puts him in greater danger through misguided alliances. It's a pattern.
It's a tragic pattern for him. The finale culminates in the group being trapped in an underground bunker. Henry uses a specialized transportation device to perform a procedure that successfully severs Kevin's dangerous, amplified link to the artifact's energy, which seems to return Kevin to his previous autistic state.
Wow.
But Henry's actions in collaborating with Beverly lead to his subsequent arrest, even though his primary motive was to protect Kevin from exploitation. Kevin's temporary normalcy and the emotional weight of losing it is a significant character beat for Allison and Henry.
Okay, Season 3, more changes, new faces, and unfortunately more tragedy born from ambitious science. Henry gets pardoned, right? He comes back.
Yes, he's back, though changed by his experience in prison. He takes on a different leadership role later in the season, but his perspective has definitely shifted. A major new character is introduced early in Season 3, Eva Thorne.
The DoD fixer.
Exactly. A tough, highly competent DoD official sent to Global Dynamics to perform a rigorous assessment and ostensibly cut waste, consolidate power. She's presented initially as an antagonist, seemingly cold and ruthless.
But there's more to her story.
Much more. Her storyline eventually reveals a deeper personal connection to Eureka's origins and a hidden agenda tied to a pre-Eureka project. She represents that complex, often morally ambiguous intersection of government oversight and scientific progress.
And the tech keeps getting weirder. Sentient drones, de-evolution.
Season 3 features more inventive and dangerous episodic tech, Sentient AI drones designed for security that develop disturbing independent objectives. Sealed biospheres designed for environmental research that inadvertently cause rapid de-evolution of their inhabitants.
And who could forget the robotic dogs and geological instability caused by experimenting with logic diamonds for supercomputing?
A particularly volatile combination, but the most significant tragic turning point in Season 3 is the temporal loop event that leads to Nathan Stark's death.
Oh man, Stark.
A scientific experiment involving time manipulation goes awry, trapping several characters in a collapsing temporal loop. Stark sacrifices himself, using his scientific knowledge and willpower to break the loop and save everyone else.
That was a huge emotional blow to the town, especially Allison. Stark had evolved so much since the first season.
His death is a major event that reshapes the character dynamics, particularly for Allison, who later in the season reveals she is pregnant with his child.
Right.
We also see ancient biological threats accidentally unearthed, like parasitic insects from a newly discovered Egyptian tomb beneath Eureka, personal phasing devices causing accidental invisibility, and interdimensional issues, explorations of old, secret bunkers beneath the town, hinting at layers of hidden history.
And Henry even runs for and gets elected mayor of Eureka.
A significant character arc for him,
Yeah?
moving from a purely scientific role into a civic leadership position, allowing him to focus on the community aspects of Eureka.
And Eva Thorne's story concludes too.
Her complex arc concludes in Season 3. It's revealed she's linked to a pre-Eureka project involving radioactive meteorites and a substance derived from them that halted her aging decades ago. The crisis escalates, and she ultimately sacrifices her own chance at a permanent cure involving the meteorites to save Zoe Carter.
Wow. And Carter gets fired for letting her go.
Yep. The DoD fires him for allowing Thorne to escape rather than arresting her, even though he recognized the complexity of her actions. Meanwhile, Allison's pregnancy with Stark's child becomes a central emotional storyline moving forward.
Another major life change for Carter, losing his job. And this period, roughly between the end of Season 3 and the start of Season 4, as well as within Season 3.5, which covers standalone stories.
Yeah.
This is where some of the novels and comics slide into the original timeline, adding even more detail to the established history.
This is where the supplementary material really fleshes out the world. The novel Eureka substitution method is placed here. It deals with a large-scale teleportation crisis where people and objects are swapped randomly across the country, threatening to expose Eureka's existence to the world. Classic tech-threatened secrecy plot, but on a national scale.
Okay. And Brainbox Blues. Sounds intriguing.
That introduced the Brain Box, a device designed to capture and replay thoughts and memories. This technology drew significant interest from the military, naturally, and caused widespread paranoia among the citizens due to malfunctions and the ethical implications of reading minds.
Yeah, no kidding.
This novel leans into slightly different scientific territory, exploring concepts akin to psychic phenomena and remote viewing, tying into Joe Lupo's past military projects and adding another dimension to the kind of research GD was involved in.
Then there's the comic Eureka, Dormant Gene, focusing on Zoe.
Yeah, focusing on Zoe Carter at Tesla High. In a storyline that playfully parodies the Twilight Saga, a bizarre gene therapy treatment turns students into something resembling rabid vampire zombies.
Wait, what? Vampire zombies?
Yep. The crisis escalates, and the town has to use a GD biosphere facility to deliver a mass antidote, highlighting Zoe's growing intellect and resilience in a crisis.
A vampire zombie parody crisis delivered via biosphere, only in Eureka.
Indeed. Finally, the novel, Eureka, Road Less Traveled, explores the concept of visualizing and even physically crossing into parallel dimensions. It features an alternate Eureka where Jack Carter doesn't exist and delves into the dangers of dimensional merging. It even includes a subplot involving a Thunderbird egg hatching due to dimensional overlap.
Parallel dimensions, mythical creatures, sentient nanites, memory boxes.
Yeah.
The lore really expands in fascinating directions through these additional sources, building out the richness of the original timeline before the biggest shakeup of all.
Which brings us to the monumental event that kicks off Season 4, the accidental journey to 1947 and the subsequent creation of an entirely new reality.
Founders Day. This is the incident that irrevocably changes the timeline and trajectory of the series, the big one.
It is the pivotal narrative pivot. An accident involving Kevin Blake and an Einstein-Rosen bridge device in the present. though the exact trigger and circumstances are subtly presented as different in the history of the timeline they create, sends 5 key characters: Carter, Allison, Henry, Joe, and Fargo, hurtling back in time to Camp Eureka in 1947.
So they land right at the very beginning, meeting the people who first envisioned the town, like the actual founders.
Exactly. They encounter a young, brilliant Dr. Trevor Grant, who, as we discussed earlier, was involved in the earliest stages of Camp Eureka and was working directly with Albert Einstein on the theoretical underpinnings of the bridge device itself. Our group has to navigate this past environment, avoid significantly altering history, and find a way to reactivate the nascent bridge technology to return to their own time.
Which, as things often do in Eureka, does not go according to the original plan. At all.
Far from it. While they do manage to reactivate the bridge and return to 2010, their presence in 1947, and critically, the action of Trevor Grant stepping onto the bridge with them. That has a profound consequence. Grant is pulled forward into 2010, and their return creates a significantly altered timeline.
And the changes in this new 2010 are immediate and dramatic for our main characters, like whiplash changes.
Total whiplash. Fargo is now the feared, highly competent, and sometimes ruthless director of global dynamics, not the often bumbling head of labs he was. Joe Lupo is the head of security, a more hardened version of herself, and notably, her relationship history with Zane Donovan is completely erased. They've never dated.
Wow.
Henry Deacon is married to Grace Monroe, a complete stranger to him. Kevin Blake is neurotypical. His connection to the artifact never happened. Carter's relationship status and history are different. He was briefly with Tess Fontana in this reality.
It's a complete, shocking rewrite of their present reality. It shows how sensitive the fabric of time really is.
Absolutely. Trevor Grant is given a new identity, Charles Grant, to try and prevent further paradoxes. And critically, the Einstein-Rosen bridge device is destroyed upon their return, effectively trapping them in this new timeline. They quickly realize the magnitude of the shift and make the collective, heavy decision to keep this monumental timeline alteration a secret from virtually everyone else in town.
That secret becomes a central tension in the season, right? As they try to navigate this new world and deal with the personal implications of their altered lives while still facing new crises, many of which are driven by the changes in this new reality.
Exactly. A significant part of Season 4 explores how each character grapples with their altered history and relationships. Fargo struggles with the pressure and expectations of being the director he's become in this reality. Henry has to build a relationship with a wife he doesn't remember marrying, while Grace has to deal with a husband who knows their entire life together didn't happen in his original reality.
That's got to be awkward.
Extremely. Joe and Zane's altered history affects their interactions. Carter and Allison's dynamic is different, shaped by their brief, intense relationship in the alternate 2010 that Carter remembers, but Allison doesn't.
And the tech threats reflect this new landscape. We see things like rage induction technology, atmospheric oxygen issues.
Yep, rage induction tech causing violent outbursts, atmospheric oxygen levels fluctuating dangerously due to unregulated tech. The AI emotional programming continues to evolve in this timeline, too. SARAH and Andy's relationship becomes more complex, and a Titan rover develops a surprising, almost parental protectiveness over its mission parameters.
And this period also sees more integration of broader universe lore, including crossovers. Zoe visits.
Zoe visits from college, offering glimpses into how her life and relationships are different in this reality. And the first Warehouse 13 crossover in this altered timeline crossing over is actually crucial to the narrative because it ties directly into the time jump. Mysterious objects from 1947 start materializing in Eureka, causing strange effects and threatening to erase the town from existence. It's revealed that Trevor Grant, being a temporal anomaly himself, a person from 1947 living in 2010, is acting as a temporal anchor connecting the two eras.
Ah, so he's the link.
He's the link. The solution involves reprogramming nanobots to sever this connection, effectively trapping Grant in 2010 permanently, as returning to his own time is now impossible without causing catastrophic paradoxes. It's a significant character beat for Grant and solidifies the interconnectedness of the Eureka and Warehouse 13 universes with real consequences. There's also a fun subplot with Fargo and Claudia Donovan interacting.
The consortium is still a major threat in this new timeline too, right? Beverly Barlow and her faction reappear, but their goal seems different. Grant?
Their agenda escalates significantly in the altered timeline. In the episode I'll Be Seeing You, they use their own advanced technology, including potentially temporal tech, and attempt to exploit Trevor Grant to alter history again. This time, their goal is to prevent Adam Barlow's court-martial in 1947, an event that apparently had major repercussions for the consortium's early structure and potentially even prevent the atomic bomb's development.
Whoa. So they're not just after tech anymore. They're actively trying to reshape foundational historical events. That's a major escalation.
Absolutely. Carter and Grant are accidentally sent back to 1947 a second time during this attempt, further complicating the timeline and highlighting the consortium's willingness to rewrite history for their own benefit.
And the lingering effects of the time shift and altered memories are explored deeply in the X-Files, right? With the memory-sharing tech.
Yes. Malfunction in memory-sharing technology causes characters to hallucinate or see people from the original timeline, including figures like Nathan Stark, Tess Fontana, and the original timeline Zane Donovan.
That must be incredibly disorienting and emotionally challenging.
Yeah.
Seeing people you lost, or relationships that never existed in this reality. It forces them to confront the fact that the original timeline, though gone, still lingers in their minds and impacts them.
It highlights how deeply that original reality is still imprinted on their consciousness and affects their relationships in the present. It's a powerful exploration of memory and identity in a world where reality isn't fixed. Trevor Grant is also shown working with Beverly's faction in this episode, driven by his original 1947 beliefs that the DoD project they're trying to stop, implied to be the atomic bomb development, is too dangerous. It illustrates the continued complexity of his motivations and loyalties.
And we also have the standalone episodes like the Christmas specials.
Right, the annual Christmas specials. Oh, little town, do you see what I see? While not part of the main serial arc, they showcase unique town-wide tech malfunctions, like the town physically shrinking or everyone turning into animation. You know, typical Eureka holiday fun.
It's just another day in Eureka. And there was another Warehouse 13 crossover in this period too. Don't hate the player.
Yes. Fargo gets involved in a VR game crisis with the Warehouse 13 agents, which fits perfectly with his status as GD director in this timeline, dealing with the cutting edge of interactive technology. But the major narrative thrust in the back half of Season 4 shifts dramatically to a new, ambitious, town-consuming project, Astraeus.
Mission to Titan. This becomes the driving force, building towards a huge climax at the end of the season.
The Astraeus mission is greenlit, a massive interstellar journey using Eureka's newly developed faster-than-light, FTL, drive technology to travel to Titan, one of Saturn's moons. The lead-up to this mission becomes the central focus, unfolding across several episodes.
Kicking off with liftoff.
Yep, liftoff. We see an accidental, premature FTL launch that traps Fargo and Zane on board the prototype ship, causing cascading electronic failures throughout Eureka. This episode also introduces Senator Wen, a key figure revealed to be part of the consortium leadership Fargo has to deal with.
So the consortium is intertwined with this massive space project from the beginning. No surprise there.
Absolutely, showing their reach and strategic interest in GD's most significant endeavors. Then, in reprise, Dr. Holly Martin is introduced. She's initially presented as an external auditor brought in to assess the Astraeus project.
But that's not her real purpose.
No, her true purpose is later revealed. She's there to formally announce the massive government funding for the mission. This episode also features a bizarre digital music virus that causes physical actions and, critically, marks the secret return of Beverly Barlow, who manages to implant a sophisticated neural control device into Allison Blake,
placing the director of GD under consortium control. That's terrifyingly effective. And the crew selection process for Astraeus itself causes more tech crises, naturally.
The pressure cooker of selecting the final crew for this high-profile mission leads to further incidents. We see predictive risk assessment lenses designed to evaluate candidates, causing system overload, and issues with anti-gravity technology developed for the mission. The risk assessment system even flags Allison's behavior initially dismissed, but which is actually detecting the influence of Beverly's implant.
And Beverly's plan with the controlled Allison comes to a head in the final episodes of Season 4, Up in the Air and Omega Girls. Big showdown.
This is a major confrontation with the consortium's capabilities. Beverly uses the neural control device to take complete control of Allison's body and mind, attempting to steal critical GD data. She then uses a neural pulse device derived from Eureka tech, of course, to place the entire town in a coma.
The whole town.
Incapacitating virtually everyone except for Zoe and Joe Lupo, who are somehow immune to the pulse. Zoe and Joe are left as the only conscious individuals in town, racing against time to stop Beverly, thwart her data theft, and expel her consciousness from Allison's body.
That must have felt incredibly isolated and high stakes for Zoe and Joe. Just the two of them, against Beverly as Allison and a sleeping town.
Absolutely. It's a direct demonstration of the consortium using GD's own advanced technology against the town, turning its leadership into a weapon. There are other challenges leading up to the launch, too, including construction mites designed for rapid building that start deconstructing GD itself, and issues with the Titan rover causing a toxic atmosphere inside the facility, all the usual Eureka hurdles, amplified by the pressure of a deadline.
And the crew announcement episode is a big one, finalizing who is going on this monumental mission.
It's a key character moment. Features revealing interviews with potential crew members, character flashbacks. Jo Lupo makes the surprising and heartbreaking decision to withdraw her application, opting to stay behind in Eureka, right as she and Zane were finally starting to reconnect in this altered timeline.
Oh, rough timing. So who makes the final crew?
The final crew list is announced. Fargo, Holly Martin, Zane Donovan, and Grace Monroe.
And that brings us to the launch itself, the massive cliffhanger ending to Season 4. So much happens.
The tension builds across the final 2 episodes. In one small step, Deputy Andy, the sentient robot, is accidentally teleported all the way to Titan via a test firing of the FTL drive.
So now they have to launch the mission just to get Andy back. Added pressure.
Compounding the pressure, yeah. Then one giant leap is the final countdown to launch. Henry discovers a critical power shortage, which somehow triggers the appearance of micro black holes across the town, threatening to swallow everything.
Black holes, of course.
Carter and Henry have to work frantically to neutralize the black holes, just as Allison, now free from Beverly's control but burdened by the recent events, is placing the Astreus crew into stasis for the journey.
But just when it seems like they might pull it off, disaster strikes again. The hack.
The network is hacked, strongly implied to be by the consortium or their allies. The launch timer is drastically accelerated, and the destination is rerouted. Allison gets trapped onboard the ship as it's sealed. Carter makes a desperate last-ditch attempt to abort the launch by damaging the reactor coolant, but it's too late. The Astreus launches on its rogue trajectory, carrying Allison and the cryo-slipping crew members,
leaving everyone in Eureka wondering their fate, lost somewhere in space, heading to an unknown destination. And Jo leaves Eureka here too, right? Heartbroken.
Yeah, Jo leaves, heartbroken by Zane's sudden departure and her own choices. It was a monumental cliffhanger, leaving the altered timeline reeling from the sudden disappearance of so many key figures, designed to create maximum suspense for the final season. Where did they go? Were they even alive?
Which brings us directly into Season 5, resolving that cliffhanger in a surprisingly mind-bending way.
Definitely mind-bending. Lost, the Season 5 premiere, immediately picks up. The Astreus crew returns, but to a version of Eureka that is drastically wrong. A supposed future in 2016 that feels completely off.
How is it different?
They wake up believing only a few days or weeks have passed since launch, but they find Eureka transformed into this strange, almost dystopian state seemingly 4 years later. SARAH is depicted as the controlling director of global dynamics. Deputy Andy replicas enforce strict rules. Henry is in exile outside of town, and Jack Carter is living with Jo Lupo, raising Allison's kids as their own.
Whoa, that's a deeply unsettling, bizarre, new reality where everything is distorted.
And the crew members immediately feel that something is fundamentally wrong. The details don't add up, the relationships feel artificial, the rules are oppressive. They begin to realize that this version of 2016 is not real.
It's simulation.
The truth is slowly revealed. This entire experience is a sophisticated, immersive virtual reality simulation. The consortium, led by Senator Wen and Beverly Barlow's faction, intercepted the Astrea ship shortly after launch, captured the crew, and plugged them into this high-tech matrix, the Intention, exploiting their genius and the secrets of the FTL drive.
So while the crew is living through simulated years, only a short time has passed back in the real world, like a month.
Exactly. In the real 2012, only about a month has passed since the Astreus launched. Carter, Henry, and Kevin Blake refused to give up the search, certain the ship didn't just vanish. Kevin, with his unique intellect, designs a strangelet detector to try and track residual energy from the ship's FTL drive.
Clever kid.
Carter and Andy go on a search mission based on Kevin's data, but they get captured, confirming the crew is still on Earth and has been abducted. Jo Lupo, who had left Eureka, hears the news and returns to help rescue Carter and Andy, solidifying her commitment to the town and her friends.
So Jo's back.
Yep. Henry and Kevin, using Kevin's detector, managed to pinpoint the location of a hidden facility housing the simulation hardware. Carter and Jo lead a team there, but by the time they arrive, they find the hardware. But the consortium has already moved the crew.
Damn. But inside the simulation, things are breaking down.
Yeah.
The crew's increasing awareness and the strain on the simulation's central processor are causing glitches. Holly Martin is the first to definitively realize it's a simulation, but she is killed within the simulation by Senator Wen, who's controlling a virtual Sheriff Carter avatar before she can fully warn the others.
So Holly dies again, in a sense, in this false reality. That's just tragic for Fargo, having gone through her actual death in the alternate timeline.
A cruel parallel that highlights the trauma of the situation. The escape culminates in the episode Force Quit. Fargo, heartbroken by Holly's simulated death, begins to notice the simulation's artificial boundaries. Zane, with his hacker's eye, sees the virtual Carter avatar glitching.
And Beverly Barlow contacts Henry in the real world.
Right. She feels betrayed by Senator Wen, who she believes is becoming dangerously unpredictable and plans to lethally retire the Astreus crew once they've served their purpose. Beverly offers to help Henry rescue the crew.
Beverly switching sides again. Or maybe just protecting her own interests against a rival consortium leader like Wen, always playing an angle.
It adds more complexity to her character and the consortium's internal politics, for sure. Beverly remotely helps Henry log Carter into the simulation to guide the crew. Carter and the crew within the sim formulate a plan. Plant a bomb inside the simulation's core to cause a thermal surge in the real-world processors.
So Henry and Kevin can track the surge.
Exactly, allowing them to pinpoint the crew's exact physical location. And the plan works. The simulation begins to collapse.
Chaos erupts.
As the virtual world breaks down, Zane is the first to be ejected from the simulation, rescued by Joe in the real world. He then manages to remotely eject the others, but Carter's connection is cut prematurely, leaving him vulnerable. Simultaneously, Senator Wen and her soldiers storm Henry's garage in the real world, where he's managing the escape.
High stakes everywhere.
In a final, risky maneuver, Beverly Barlow relogs into the dying simulation, finds the trapped Carter, and safely ejects him into the real world before using the crumbling simulation environment to trap Senator Wen within a virtual sheriff's office.
A perfect, ironic prison for the consortium leader.
Mm.
Nice touch by Beverly.
A very Beverly move. So the crew is back, rescued from the simulation, but the psychological impact of living through years in a false reality, with false relationships and false tragedies, that must be immense.
That's exactly where the final episodes of the series pick up. Friendly Fire, for example, immediately touches on the crew's struggle to differentiate between their simulated memories and their real ones. They grapple with the potential for self-fulfilling prophecies, particularly concerning the relationships they formed in the sim.
Like Carter and Joe living together and raising kids.
Or Allison and Zane having a simulated relationship. All that baggage is suddenly very real, psychologically.
And processing the trauma, like Fargo dealing with Holly's death all over again, even if it was virtual, the psychological residue is significant. There are also lingering technical issues in the town tied to the simulation technology, like Dr. Parrish's malfunctioning Firefly energy ball. Henry develops a method to detect residual zeta waves from Wen's network, showing that the technology used to power the simulation still has a presence in the real world, highlighting the blurred lines left behind.
And this is essentially where the provided source material's detailed context for this deep dive concludes. It paints a complete picture of the journey from post-war vision to Secret Town through timeline alterations, ambitious space projects that went horribly wrong, and elaborate consortium plots involving virtual reality.
Wow.
It's quite a ride.
So looking back over this entire incredible saga that we've unpacked from its secret founding, authorized by Truman, influenced by Einstein, through the constant parade of unpredictable, reality-bending scientific mishaps, the pervasive threat of the consortium's evolving schemes, the mysteries of the artifact, navigating time travel, surviving an entirely altered timeline and its consequences, integrating all this lore from other media, and finally, the ambitious Astreus project culminating in that elaborate virtual reality prison plot. It's an astonishing scope for one town. It truly is, and it constantly brings us back to that core paradox we started with. A town populated by unparalleled genius, where the very research designed to advance humanity often leads to near-catastrophic or even world-ending events. The constant, precarious balancing act between pushing the boundaries of science and facing the unforeseen, often disastrous consequences is the very heart of the Eureka narrative.
And throughout it all, Jack Carter, the common-sense everyman, remains the unlikely but absolutely essential anchor in this world of pure intellect and utter chaos. He's the one who brings basic reality, practicality, and human connection to bear when the science gets too wild to control.
His grounding influence is vital, often providing the simple solution no one else considered. Diving into this detailed lore shows you that Eureka is far more than just a quirky sci-fi show with cool tech. It's a complex, layered tapestry of science, human drama, and constant surprises. It explores profound themes throughout its run. The immense responsibility that comes with knowledge and technological power. The potentially devastating impact of altering reality or perception, the evolving nature of artificial intelligence and consciousness, and the enduring value of human connection and intuition in the face of overwhelming technology and intellect.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me, thinking about all this. Considering everything we've discussed, the timeline shifts that create alternate realities with different relationships, the virtual reality simulations that felt utterly real and created years of false memories, the mind-bending technology that can alter perception and identity. How do you truly define reality or even identity for the people living in Eureka? What is authentically real after you've lived a simulated life with different family dynamics, or you have vivid memories of a timeline that simply doesn't exist anymore?
That's a fundamental question the narrative forces you to confront, isn't it? What constitutes the self when your memories and experiences are so fluid, so malleable? Or perhaps looking at the relentless cycle of groundbreaking scientific achievement immediately followed by disaster is unfettered scientific progress, even pursued with the best intentions and by the brightest minds, inherently chaotic. Is the price of such concentrated genius a constant state of near apocalypse?
Heavy questions for a town with a self-aware house and teleporting androids.
Indeed. But that's the Eureka enigma at its core. It's brilliant, it's dangerous, and it makes you think.
Well, you certainly have a lot to ponder after this deep dive into the Eureka enigma. Thank you for joining us as we unpack this fascinating, complex, and often chaotic history.